Marvel Studios have moved around some movie release dates this week. And as a consequence, we now only have one movie coming out next year, Deadpool 3. It's phase one all over again, people. However, I think it's a good sign. They're taking their time to ensure the quality of their product, at least so it seems. And as a fan, that can only make me happy. This is the review of Champions, and I'm your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of the finest champions Sakar has to offer. Let me introduce them to you. First up, we have Merv. How are you, man?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Next, we have Mr. Taylor first. How are you?
Marvelous.
That's good to hear. Voice only, we have Loki's mom.
Well, I was going to say marvelous too, so I'll just say Marvel.
Oh. Okay, it's getting silly now, people. And then last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Lord Death Man.
Higher, further, faster?
More. Yeah, okay. We're just coming off a Loki review and we're a little bit silly, people, forgive us. Today we're going to talk about Marvel Studios, the Marvels. But before we do, I want to ask you all to help us out. Like and share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really can't get enough of us, join our ranks. Go to Sakar at sakar.freeforums.net. Set up an account, get to know us, and yes, you can join us in our reviews or podcast. We would love to do if you do that. Consider this your final warning. After this point, the spoilers are incoming. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, go do that first and then check out our review. Captain Marvel is getting switched around with two other heroes with light-based powers. Who is behind it and why? Well, let's find out, shall we? And we're going to do 3 rounds in this review. First, we do our quick thoughts, then we do a deeper dive into our likes and dislikes for this movie, and then we end up with a rating. And yeah, you never know what else may come up. So let's begin now. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Taylor, first.
It's a great movie, actually. I put it like right in the middle of the MCU at this point. I think it was all well executed. I liked the characters. I think they handled the difficult stuff quite well. I had heard stuff on the internet that it was, overly humorous, and that, to me, that wasn't the case. I think there was the right amount of humor, and it wasn't forced like sometimes happens. It felt pretty natural, the humor that was there. So overall, yeah, I think this was a great movie. I enjoyed the story. I think it contributes to the overall universe. I'm pretty satisfied at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Lord Deathman, have you ever laughed so much during a Barbara Streisand song?
Oh my God. I am going to say that ever since this project was announced, I have set myself up as a villain in the sense that I was like, oh my God, this really doesn't sound like a sequel to Captain Marvel. When I found out about the sort of Freaky Friday gimmick that they were going to go for with this one, and that Miss Marvel was going to be in it, I really did the fandom no favors by saying I don't think that this is going to work. I think it's going to be a disaster. I saw this movie at a press screening earlier during the week and wasn't in the greatest of moods and kind of walked out with it 50-50, but just saw it again today. And I have to say that looking at it with fresh, relaxed eyes, I enjoyed this film a lot, and I'm willing to eat the crow and say this was a whole lot of fun. And I'm not one of those fans that's allergic to humor in these kind of MCU films, but I am getting a little fatigued. I will say thematically, the only negative thing I really have to say about this film is that I'm getting fatigued by the juxtaposition of the end of the world with a lot of humor, and somehow it's like we've got to move past that in the next round of MCU films if we can.
Yeah, you want to go back to phase one where it was less humorous?
Not necessarily less humorous. And again, I'm not allergic to the humor. It's just they're doing it every single time now. And I do think that we've got to switch it up every now and again for this stuff to feel less like it comes out of a factory and more like in, you know, an organic story being told about different types of individuals. Not everybody can be funny, right? In this in this entire universe. Somebody's got to be not so funny. Like, do we leave that to the Vision? I think even he got his chuckles off in WandaVision. But this is the short stuff, the short version. So I'll leave it at that, and then you know we can move on to the next champion.
Yeah, I'm afraid I will have to quote the Vision now himself. You're unbearably naive. Loki's mom. Loki's mom. We got two characters in this movie that were introduced in Disney Plus shows. And not everybody is following Disney Plus as vigorously as some of us do. So, was that a problem in the movie? And can I have your quick thoughts on it?
You know, I don't really think so. I know Monica Rambeau, she was in the WandaVision, and I think she was, I guess, in the narrative, and then we sort of saw it in the narrative that she was had known Captain Marvel as a child through her mother, who was can't remember what her name was, but that's how she came into Nick Fury's orbit. And yeah, so I think it all made sense. And then Kamala Khan, the Miss Marvel, she's where she just had her own series, and which I just kind of only just saw recently, and I was quite impressed with it. I'm one of these people, you know, it's got teenagers and kids. Yeah, I'm kind of squeamish about that. I don't know why, but it kind of worked with that particular series, and I thought it was very clever, and so I think she was a little bit more of an unknown. She kind of come off as a little more goofy and whatnot. And I think in her TV show, we saw the more serious side of her powers and how it came to her. But then the whole thing about the quantum bands and all that. I mean that all made perfect sense that she had one, and then Darben needed the other one. I think that all came across quite well, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it's another one of these I would call them sort of riding in the middle of the pack sort of movies, but it's pretty good. It's not great. It's not profound, but all in all, it's very satisfactory. And when I came out, I was happy.
No, well, that's actually why movies are being made, to make people happy when they have seen them, right? So, Taylor had a follow up.
Scorsese would disagree.
Yeah, but Scorsese is almost in a mausoleum, so let's leave him there. Yeah, sorry, not a fan. Merv, Miss Iman Villani, Miss Marvel, she stole the movie for me, and I'm a little bit prejudiced because I am one of the few people who actually adored Miss Marvel, the show, and adored Iman Villani in the role of Miss Marvel. But do you agree? Was she great or not? And did you like the movie?
One, absolutely. This movie proved Iman Vellani is a star, at least to me, and that's where we can get into it later. But kind of the crux of whether or not I think you really enjoy or dislike this film is if you enjoy the character of Kamala Khan, and because she's very what's the word, extroverted in nature. And just to me, it's like a pocket full of sunshine. But I could see if that isn't your cup of tea, maybe you go watch a Batman movie and you brood and alone in the room for a while, and maybe you come back in later whenever you're more joyful. But no, I kid. But I really enjoyed this film. It's not perfect, but that feels redundant to say anymore. That there are flaws in movies. That's not, coming off of the Loki review. That's kind of not the point. Like I left this movie theater with a smile on my face after enjoying it, And to me, that's like way more important than checking all the little tallies of, you know, how good was the CGI here, and you know, how bad was the storyline over there. I really had a lot of fun with this movie. I really enjoyed it. It's the best thing I've seen since Loki season 2 finale.
Yeah. Okay.
Since Thursday.
So I
The
guess
MCU is back.
that's true for everybody. But anyway, okay, Loki's mom, you have any negatives about this movie at all? And let's have them. And can I have a deeper dive on the movie?
Well, it's a negative that's tied into Secret Invasion.
Whoa.
Yeah. At least we got the old Nick Fury back. I mean, you know, not that stiff that was stuck. You know, that scene where they're in the hospital and he throws the chair in front of the president. And I wanted to say it reminded me so much of Sonny Corleone protecting the Don. You know, he's waiting on and actually that's what they were going for. It was just so. Anyway, negatives. Not really. I mean, yeah, the scrolls were okay. I mean, they didn't turn me off, and so I'm okay with the scrolls again. And let's see. No, I'm just gonna say no negatives.
No. Okay. Do you have any elaboration on what you did like?
Yeah, I thought, like you say, it was funny. It was clever. The jokes were in the right place. They didn't overdo the jokes. Nothing really fell flat. Oh, did we mention that there is a connection between Loki 2, the Loki, and this particular movie? And would you know what that is, Grandmaster? You're the Grandmaster now. You should know.
No. Sorry.
You don't know. You don't?
No.
Well, Dar-Benn, played by the actress Zoe Ashton, very wonderfully. Too bad she got at the end. But and Tom Hiddleston, they are, I believe, husband and wife at this point, and they have a little Loki, Dar-Benn, running around toddler. So that there is a connection.
Oh, well, that would make you happy, I guess.
I'm a grandmother.
Grandma. Okay. Anyway, Merv, any negatives for you on this movie, or was it all fun and games? Or was it too much fun and games?
Despite what I said earlier, there are a few negatives. Yeah, I'll preface this with saying they didn't ruin the movie for me. But, you know, it wouldn't be a review if you didn't point out some of the stuff that maybe they could tweak and fix for their future. For one, I mean, the villain was, let's just say, forgettable, to me at least. It wasn't very deeply written for me.
I will second that, because actually before we got on the call to record our review, I actually had to look up what the name of the villain was.
Yeah, I think and it's not an original problem with this film, you know, as opposed to the rest of the MCU. It's a pretty common issue with a lot of the MCU films, is they present this villain that is, you forget their names the second the movie's over. You never see them again, and they just amount to nothing. And then you have other ones like Loki or Thanos that are, you know, memorable. But unfortunately, this one falls into the clump of pretty forgettable villains that even like visually, there was nothing like really to the character, you know, for being an alien and a Kree. Like, you'd think maybe there's some flair there, but there wasn't really any flair. There was a hammer that glowed sometimes, and that was about it. But yeah, these are problems that didn't like ruin the movie for me, but you got to point them out. The pacing at times felt a bit punchy. Like whenever there were some random emotional scenes, it felt like they almost came out of nowhere. Like there were some transitioning shots or events that didn't really happen. It was just like, okay, and now we're into this, which is emotional, and then we're out of it back into like fun montage. And sometimes that just came across as a little punchy, for lack of a better word. For the most part, I really enjoyed the special effects, but there were a few times where they weren't the greatest. I'll just put it out that way. But again, super heavy special effects movie, so you're going to notice whenever the things don't really line up. Um, and probably some of the side characters could have been left a little more to the side. Like, as much as I love the Khan family, they probably could have been trimmed down a little bit. Nick Fury probably could have been trimmed down a little bit, and especially those cats could have been trimmed down a little bit, or at least the gag of the cats eating things, the flurkins or whatever. It was that same gag over and over again throughout the film, and by the time that there were a million of them eating everyone, I just didn't even care about it. Like, it didn't. I didn't get humor out of it. I didn't get disgust out of it. I didn't get anything out of it because they had already gone to that well so many times. Um, but yeah, those are really the negatives for me. I mean, they kind of stop there. And like I said, they don't outweigh the enjoyment I had watching the positives of this film. So, got to point them out.
Okay. And those positives?
Oh,
What stood out?
Well, we already mentioned Iman Vellani. I mean, her charisma single-handedly, like, pretty much carried this film. But not to sell the other one short, because I thought Brie Larson as Carol Danvers really brought new layers to this. My one big criticism of the first Captain Marvel film was that she just felt like she was indestructible. Like, and nothing mattered, and I never got like the emotional weight there. Whereas in this one, I do think there were several scenes of emotional weight, and you could see like kind of the layered conversations between her and Monica a little bit. I wish they would have developed them a little bit further, especially with her and Monica. But they didn't. But you still got a little bit of that like regret and kind of failed potential like relationship there. I don't know how to put it, but it was like a sense of abandonment on Monica's part and a sense of failure on Carol's part, but it wasn't evaluated enough. But I thought Brie Larson's acting in that was really great. The best part for me was whenever she couldn't get to Monica in time during Monica's sacrifice moment. There was like a gasp and like a bit of a whimper that really like shone through, and yeah, I might have got a little choked up a little bit, but yeah, that was great. The pacing of the film outside of like those punchy moments was fantastic. It was super fast paced in a shorter film than we've gotten lately, which I think helps that. In the action sequences themselves with the body swapping, I thought was super unique and super fun, and I had a hell of a time watching. Just especially the first one where it was kind of chaos, nobody really knew what was going on. Like that, to me, that was a lot of fun. And then once they really developed it and got really used to it, like that was even better because you're seeing like the teamwork element at play. So all that stuff, despite being against a villain I didn't really know or care about, it was all very fun to watch. So.
Okay. Before I move to Lord Deathman, Lokismom, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I would agree with Merv that the joke was overplayed with the flirkins, but with the octopus throats and whatever coming out. But what kind of saved it was when they then started playing the theme from Cats. And then you think about that abysmal movie that came out a couple years ago that I mean, just, and I just thought that kind of, you couldn't help but just, oh my, because they're comparing it, whatever, but yeah.
Yeah. Lord Deathman, there's one thing I really missed when we are moving towards this movie in the last few months, and it was not the actors promoting the movie. Thank God, by the way, the strike is over. But I could do without that because it's usually the same talk all over again, and they're making up for it in the last few days because my God, they're everywhere. But anyway, what I did miss was the Brie Larson hate campaign online. Nobody cared.
Yeah, it certainly seems that the problems folks had with Brie Larson in her first outing on this were kind of artificially generated and disseminated. They were kind of turned into this bizarre meme. And now no one has much to say about Brie Larson anymore. even though she is her same very much opinionated and snarky self, as you just said, coming back off the strike, she's wasted no time um, in telling everybody what she thinks about everything. But that being said, as far as going through my positives and negatives of the film, I want to give Nia DaCosta a lot of credit. I think she's a really talented director. And I think she gets to the emotional truth of the relationships between the women in a way that just feels more organic. Whereas in the first film, the girl power angle feels a little heavy handed at times. Um, and I don't want to say political, like some people have tried to make that film out because it was not. But here it just feels organic. It's not like a gender battle where it's me and there's some men who are trying to kind of oppress me or keep me down. But at the same time, this was a story of female empowerment. You have three female heroes who have to get the job done, and they have to work together and they have to sort out their issues as a team and also their issues, as people who are coming into each other's lives, either for the first time or from the past. So I thought that was handled extremely well. I also, maybe I just don't have an eye for visual effects, but I thought the effects were actually pretty good in this film. I was really having a good time watching the lasers whirring around. This felt super comic booky in the sense that we've never really had we haven't moved up to that level in the MCU where you have characters that turn into other forms of energy or project a lot of energy from their bodies in multiple different directions. This is something that happens in the comics all the time. And this movie felt like it finally embraced the really, really wild side of superpowers in terms of, swapping places. And all in a way that I think even if you have no familiarity with comic books, it was kind of easy and fun to follow along with what was happening. The first third of the movie is awesome. Those body switching sequences, the fights, I was like, wow, this this is not Freaky Friday. Okay. Right. I expected like some body swapping thing and some trope that was going to be a little more static, but it was ultra dynamic the way it was filmed and portrayed in the movie. So that's a huge up for me. While I will agree with everyone about Dar-Ben as far as being another underdeveloped Marvel villain, I loved what Zal Ashton did with the actual performance. I don't know why they decided to put some gold in her grill for this film, but I was like, you know what, I'm there for it. And I love these weird expressions that she kind of gives off that are like aggression and disgust all at the same time. Awesome, awesome job from Miss Ashton, or Miss Hiddleston, whatever she's going by these days. Great job in terms of her performance. Yeah, and another big positive for me is just as a comic book reader, I'm getting all the mythology. They brought back the Supreme Intelligence, even if briefly. We get the Cosmorod and the Universal Weapon, the synonymous name for the giant hammer that the Kree wield. So, I'm getting my taste of cosmic mythology. I'm not sure common audiences or unindoctrinated audiences could feel that kind of fun, but I had a lot of fun with it. Where they went wrong, and there were not too many places where they did. Again, as I said in my quick review, it's really, I think, the juxtaposition of a lot of humor kind of undermines the confidence that you can kind of have in these movies, especially when you put them against serious end of the world stakes. Like a lot of people are going to die if this ocean disappears. A lot of people are going to die if this sun goes out. And it doesn't always feel right to kind of have a barb or a joke ready at the ready for this kind of situation. So I'm wondering if they can back off that part of the formula a little bit, or maybe do it every other time, so this doesn't seem like a comedy fest in that sense. Again, not allergic to humor as some fans seem to be deadly allergic to it. Uh, I did suffer from a little bit of Flurkin overload. That sequence seemed like you know weird, and it just seemed like Disney doing what Disney does. People love cats. Let's put a cat in this movie. That was the first Captain Marvel. This one was same executive. People love cats. Let's multiply the first cat by 100. And somebody who loves cats will come to see this movie. I also think we got Disneyfied with this the Song Planet. Like, when you read a Marvel comic book, I think a part of what the fans really like about those superhero stories is that even if they're weirdly connected things, there's always a logical outgrowth of how something happens when you go to another planet. What's this environment like? But now you're going into like what I call teapot country, where like in a Disney movie, there's a singing teapot. Nobody knows why. There's a singing candle. That's a pure fantasy, right? You know what I mean? Like, not to knock my Disney live action friends on the other side of the fandom, but that is a fantasy. And I don't want to see the Marvel movies just devolve into a fantasy where anything could happen and it just doesn't make any sense why. I'm on a planet, people are singing, and that's their language. That feels more like the Disney fantasy version of sci-fi storytelling, and not what you really get, what you're supposed to get out of the Marvel sort of a method of storytelling. But yeah, that's my whole review. And again, I'm eating the crow for everyone on Sakar, for anyone who listens to the show. I want them to know I was wrong about the Marvels. I had fun at this movie in spite of myself. So good job.
Fair enough. Actually, that was my bridge into Taylor, because I must admit, um, the Marvels was not high on my most anticipated list. Uh, However, those trailers did give me a little bit of hope for this movie. I think that was the same with you. At least you also like the trailers, I think. Did the movie disappoint compared to those trailers, or did it actually provide you with what they promised?
No, it exceeded the trailers. I thought the trailers were good, but I still had worries about this movie. I did not think it was going to be the level that I normally expect for MCU.
Also, because there were extensive rewrites and reshoots in so much that it was like they had to like redo 75% of the movie. At least that's what the trades told us.
Right, and that of course was part of it, and plus just the fact that we've had a couple of stumbles with the MCU, and I thought this was a project that was ripe. had a lot of places where it could have stumbled, but it didn't. I thought it did really, really well. I had no problem with the two characters having been introduced in the Disney Plus shows, because I, like all good people, watched the Disney Plus shows. I knew exactly what was going on. But I don't think anyone else would have a big problem with that. And another thing, this really isn't important, but this really truly was a sequel to Captain Marvel. Excuse me. This truly was a sequel to Captain Marvel. It very much built on what was started there. Especially, of course, I remember when that movie was out, a lot of people said, "Well, wait, what happened when she goes back to Hela and takes on the Kree?" Well, now we know what happened when she went back to Hela, and it caused a lot of problems, and it caused a lot of conflict and regret in her because of the consequences of her actions. And I thought that was handled quite well, because her actions led to this, this woman, the villain, searching for 30 years for a way to destroy Captain Marvel and undo the damage that she had done, well-intentioned, but again, we forget about the second and third order effects of things. So I thought that was all handled quite well. I thought it was pretty deep. I thought the relationship stuff with Captain Marvel and Spectrum was handled well. They didn't dwell on it. They didn't make the whole movie about that, but it was handled. We understood why she had those feelings about Captain Marvel that we saw in WandaVision. Ms. Marvel was great. She was, perfectly played as a teenager who'd never seen anything like this before, was thrust into it, was given these powers, and, tried to do the best she could, having learned from her heroes, Captain Marvel and the other Avengers. and she trying to live up to that. And of course, you know, they say never meet your heroes. Well, she met her hero, and she found out that her hero is human and does make mistakes, but she's still her hero because she's still a good person and is still a hero. So it wasn't, you know, a total destruction thing, which sometimes, you know, movies like to do. So that was, I thought, was handled very well. As far as the villain goes, you know, the villain was fine. Thing I remember is this movie isn't about the villain. This movie is about the three protagonists. You know, and it's not always that way. Most Batman movies are actually about the villain because we already know everything we need to know about Batman. Batman is what Batman is. He's not grappling with anything except fighting the villain. So that in that case, you know, the villain becomes a more important piece. But this villain, we knew her motivation. It was acted well. She handled it well. She handled the, you know, the action parts and the emotional parts. You know, the whole acting. She was fine. So again, I didn't have any issues with the villain there. I thought the action scenes were really good, and I was really worried about that. That was one of the main things I was worried about, was the location switching entanglement of their powers. I thought that could get really hokey and could have dragged the movie down. But they handled it really well, I thought, and they executed it really well, as Lord Deathman said. Those fight scenes where they were switching places, as again, the first one where they didn't know what they were doing, and then later when they learned how to control it to a degree, and I love that. They didn't perfectly control it. There were still moments when they used their power when they shouldn't have used their power, but for the most part, they were controlling it. They were using it as a positive, it was a weapon in and of itself. They, you know, planned how to use it and how to make it work for them. I thought the special effects were good. I thought that the building of those alien planets looked really spectacular. And again, you know, I know I'm just making up a number here, but I'm sure a huge percentage of the budget of this movie went into all those visuals, because this entire movie was CGI, other than the people. And even when the people were fighting part of the time, they were CGI. So huge amount of money went into that. And of course, this movie had challenges along the way. It was being made during you know, COVID restrictions, and of course Hollywood kept the restrictions in place far longer than everyone else in the world did. Everyone else in the world had gotten way past COVID restrictions, and Hollywood still had all these rules about everyone being tested and everyone being vaccinated, and everyone's vaccinations up to date. And if anyone tested positive, stuff got shut down. So they had to deal with all of that. So I give them credit for getting through all those challenges. And then, you know, the marketing, of course, they couldn't market it the way you usually market stuff with the actors. So that all worked. As far as negatives, very few for me. I did not like the costume that they gave Captain Marvel on the water singing planet. The muted colors and the oversized star, I just didn't like that at all. And I also didn't like the new Ms. Marvel costume. I think the one that she made, or her family made in the series, is a lot better costume for her than the one she got there. The Spectrum costume was fine. I didn't have any issues with that. But I hope Captain Marvel goes back to her more bright uniform in the future. But those are really my only real negatives. I thought, you know, there was the one scene where, and it was actually a good scene, but I thought, as Merv said, the transition into it was kind of weird, was the scene where Captain Marvel was fixing the ship, and Monica Rambeau comes in, says, "You need help," and then suddenly they have their heart-to-heart moment about how come you didn't come back, and all that, which again, the heart-to-heart moment was pretty good. I just thought the what is she doing, and why does she need help, and what is she going to do to help exactly? I mean, it was obviously a one-person job that they were doing there, but yeah, again, that just felt a little bit clunky. But again, the important part of it, the emotional piece, the conversation, worked just fine. Of course, we had multiverse elements here when the tear in the universe happened, and you know, they had to close it because another universe was leaking in. So again, there are some stuff that have happened in Phase 4 and 5 that are completely, at least apparently, completely unrelated to the multiverse saga. But a lot of stuff has had subtle stuff that's related to the multiverse saga. And also, we're seeing, as time goes on, we're seeing a little bit more of the subtle connections to stuff that happened earlier in Phases 4 and 5. So I'm hoping now we're going to get a little break here. I don't know how many shows are going to be in 2024. I know we got Echo. I don't know about after that. And then we got only one movie as of now, only one movie in 2024. But I hope as they go forward, this will all become a lot more clear than it has been up to this point. But yeah, like I said, major thumbs up, better than I was expecting, and very few thumbs down, very few criticisms of this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it all sounds fair, what you say. Okay, guys, we need to talk about those, and I'm going to say two post-credit scenes because it was technically in the movie at the end, but I'm going to count it as a post-credit scene, especially since it was a direct callback to another post-credit scene we got all the way back in 2008, and we're going to start there. Did we enjoy this? That Kamala Khan is assembling a team, and of course, it's kind of hinting at Young Avengers. And I'm looking at Taylor or Lord Deathman or Merv or Loki's mom, or anyone who has read comics and can tell me anything about it, because I, as a non-comic book reader, know nothing. So let's start with you, Lord Deathman.
Yeah, Young Avengers. This is a property that I have a lot of mixed feelings about. I, as a comic book reader, have to have to admit to the fact that there are a couple of really good Young Avengers stories out there. But by and large, I'm not really a fan of that IP. And I really do think that it was probably designed for a generation of Marvel Comics fans that came after me. Well, without dating myself too badly. Um, I don't know. The idea of putting the word young in front of anything, just sort of like it turns me off as someone who might want to try and enjoy this. It automatically feels like this is going to be about adolescents having a juvenile, sort of prepubescent or whatever experience in their superheroics on screen. But I know that the Young Avengers have a huge following and that there are a lot of fans who are dying to see those. But sadly, I'm not one of them. I'm not negative on it. I'm not saying that it's going to get in the way of MCU momentum, but it's not something that I'm waiting for in particular. But my only real the only real piece of analysis that I have about it of any merit for people listening to the show is I'm kind of a little concerned that it might mean that there's going to be this bifurcation of the MCU for, folks who are a little younger. They're trying to hit younger demos, and there's just going to be a parallel kind of set of movies and films for people who are, I don't know, 25 and younger. And then there might be a separate track for some of the older fans. And maybe the two will never meet or occasionally connect. Who knows? But yeah, I do give them a little credit for giving a nod in a comical way to the MCU's earliest beginnings by doing the callback to that earlier 2008 Iron Man end credit scene. I will say Kamala Khan is no Nick Fury though, but you know what? That's probably what they were trying to get across. Now, while I'm lukewarm on that end credit scene, I am totally put off by the one that followed, unfortunately. And it's been a while since I saw an end credit scene that I just totally was like, yikes, I don't know where this is going or what they're trying to do. So, for those who haven't seen the movie, spoilers, but Monica Rambeau is now somehow in the Fox X-Men universe. I think that's what we were supposed to get out of that. Plus, we got a new character in Binary, another incarnation of Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel or whoever you want to call her from the comic books. And yeah, in the simplest, most straightforward way, I have to say I hate this idea. And that's largely because I'm not really a fan of the Fox X-Men by and large. I think they produce more junk than actual good movies, although there are probably two or three really strong Fox X-Men movies. I'm not really just seeing the purpose of bringing the Fox X-Men universe into the MCU. That just feels like a complete nostalgia play. I love Kelsey Grammer. I liked watching Frasier. I liked him as Beast. but certainly didn't need to see him at the end of a Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And that's where it just goes wrong. It's like, okay, let's do a setup for the X-Men in at the end of Captain Marvel. Felt out of place, and yeah, I'll be interested to see how it turns out for them. But again, I hope this is one of those things that never gets paid off, and we just, it's a dangle that falls off, and because that happens from time to time.
Yeah, we're still waiting for Scorpion to return, right?
Yeah.
Well, Loki's mom, I know you love teenagers and stuff, so you must have been thrilled with that end credit scene with Kamala Khan recruiting Kate Bishop. And yeah, do you agree with Lord Deathman that bringing in the Foxman is foxed up, if I may say it like that?
Well, let me start out by saying that I'm going to ask you another question, Grandmaster. Do you know what tomorrow is? Do you know what the date is?
Tomorrow is the 13th of
Yes,
November.
that's exactly. Do you know what happened on that day 69 years ago?
No, I wasn't born at that time. You may think I was, but I wasn't.
Loki's mom was born.
Oh, congratulations. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So thank you. Yeah, that was so spontaneous. Yeah, anyhow, I appreciate that. And I know all you other three guys feel the same way. So. However,
Happy
Loki's
birthday.
mom is also, thank you. Loki's mom is also 69 years old, so she had to go to the girl powers room when it got to the end of the movie. I did catch the Kate Bishop one, but so yeah, the whole thing about teenagers. Yeah, let's go build an atomic bomb down in the gym basement, with some
Yeah, stuff like
leftover
that.
lab equipment. But it kind of always kind of goes that way. I think if they could do it, where they bring these kids, and they've got Scar. He's already. If they can squeeze Kid Loki out of the void, they got a kid. They got a Loki. I mean, they got them all set up, ready to. I think what doesn't, and they're a kid at the end of Black Panther 2. There was another kid popped up, and it got ridiculous. That was one of my biggest that they just kept coming up with. It was like there again, it was a horrible gimmick, and you could see where they were going with it. And I sort of get it because they want to appeal to teenagers. They want to appeal to a broader audience. And and if they're going to give us, hey, if they're going to give us Kingpin, why not give them that? But yeah, I get squeamish about it. If they could do it though, like like a John Hughes type comedy, or bring in that type of humor and enrich it that way, I think they could make it work rather than just make it just another. And there's what? How many of them are on television right now and streaming and movies and what? It's all over the place. I don't know what they could really do with it, but and someday I'll tell you my John Hughes story, Lord Deathman. You'll love it.
We'll
Indeed.
save that for another day.
Oh
Taylor,
well.
the yeah, I
Oh,
I'm
and
I'm
Kelsey
inclined
Grammer. I'm sorry, but I am intrigued by Kelsey Grammer. So continue talking.
Taylor, I'm inclined to become team Renslayer because I definitely want her to prune the timeline with the Foxmen.
Yeah, I don't know if she is actually in the Fox quote unquote X-Men universe. I mean, in Multiverse of Madness, we saw Professor X, but that was obviously not the Fox X-Men universe. It was a Fox X-Men actor, and Kelsey Grammer, same thing. What was the name of the character you said? Is it Binary? Is that the version?
Binary, yes.
Yeah, I was not familiar with that uniform at all, so I was going to ask you guys who the heck is that. But she wasn't in the Fox universe, but she's in this whatever corner of the multiverse Monica Rambeau ended up in. That's where she is. I thought it was cute, and I like seeing Beast is one of the few X-Men that I actually like. And when we have another discussion later on, I'll tell you why all that is. But I like Beast. when they do Secret Wars, all this stuff is going to come to a head one way or another. I'm hoping that it's not the Fox X-Men universe. I know sooner or later they're going to have X-Men in the MCU in a large way, and I'm not really looking forward to that. But again, we'll talk about that when it happens. But at some point, all this stuff is going to come together. We'll probably see Loki sitting on his chair during Secret Wars at some point. And hopefully they'll handle it well. It'll be like just a little thing like they did with Red Skull in Infinity War. Just a little, oh, there he is. he's got a tiny piece of it. Okay, I digress. Young Avengers. I have been dreading that they're going to try and do Young Avengers. Not necessarily because it's going to suck, but it might. But Marvel, the MCU has more than enough stuff to do already without bringing in Young Avengers. We're just getting back to the problems that we've been having thus far, which is oversaturation and trying to do too many things too fast. The other problem I have with Young Avengers is kind of like what Loki's mom was saying. I don't need whining about their boyfriends while they're fighting villains and other stuff like Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. Hey kids, let's put on a show. We can do it.
Which I would rather see.
Yeah, thank you. I'll turn on TCM and watch that. Thank you. But they've introduced all these characters little by little, and for the most part, I've liked the characters, even though they're teenagers, and some things I haven't liked about them. But overall, I've liked the characters. I like Kate Bishop a lot. I hope to see a lot more of her, but I don't know if she needs to be a team of young Avengers, quote unquote. And I don't know much about the Young Avengers in the comics themselves. I've never read them, but it doesn't really matter because the comics don't really matter that much because they change everything anyway, or as much as they need to. But my biggest concern about Young Avengers is that it's not needed, and that's the thought process that has to go in to this. What does the MCU need, and when does it need it? Eternals is a perfect example. I love that movie, Eternals, but I don't think the MCU needed that movie when it came out. I think it became a distraction. And I'm afraid they might do the same thing with Young Avengers. Now I want to see more. I want to see more Ms. Marvel. I want to see more of Stature. That's Ant-Man's daughter in the comics. I want to see more of her. I want to see Scar. I don't want to see more of Scar because Jesus H. What the heck? I want to see anything that's associated with She-Hulk, unless they do a new She-Hulk and fix what they did there. But oh my God, that Scar scene was just god awful.
I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me.
All right. But I thought it was really cute though when they did the scene of her sitting in Kate Bishop's apartment, and they did the little call back to Nick Fury in her own way. So I thought that was a cute and entertaining scene. But think long and hard, Marvel, before you go down the Young Avengers role. You have these characters join the real Avengers when they're ready and when they're needed. Again, I just like she said about building a nuclear power plant in the gym, or like kind of like what happened at the end of Ms. Marvel, where the damage control was nice enough to wait 6 hours while they made that plan and built all those traps inside the school, just so we could do Home Alone in the high school at the end of Ms. Marvel. But that's where I stand. They were both cute scenes. I'm interested to see how this all comes together. The whole multiverse thing comes together. I hope it, talk about a gamble, but hopefully Marvel does its magic and the multiverse comes together without making all of us mad about it. And then they bring in the X-Men when they have to, and it works well. That's what I'm hoping for. And a lot of times that when I've been worried about stuff, I've been proven completely wrong. And Marvel surprises me and does a great job with stuff that I think is going to be a mess. So I hopefully when and if they bring in the X-Men characters, it's not going to, God forbid they bring in the actors from the Fox X-Men, other than in very small, multiverse type stuff. But if they try to bring them and make them part of the MCU, not looking forward to that at all. But like I said, right now, wary but hopeful.
Mm-hmm. Merv, Yeah. Do you think Deadpool 3 will be set in this adjacent reality, as Beast I think said, or is it going to be set in the sacred timeline?
I think with Loki in charge, everything is a sacred timeline at this point.
Okay, that's cool. But what do you think?
Well, starting with the Miss Marvel Kate Bishop scene, I think both these scenes, I think I had a very different take on than it seems like everyone else on this panel. So I don't look at it so much as them leading into a young Avengers as them leading into an Avengers, because this whole Phase 4 has been about passing the mantle from one to the next. So if you want to call it Avengers: The Next Generation, starring Patrick Stewart as whoever, that's fine too.
Charles Xavier?
Yeah. But in my mind, when I saw that scene, I'm like, okay, we're getting characters together. I don't really mind how they really get together. I just want to see them together because these are our characters. This is our new Hawkeye. This is our new whomever, our new Black Widow. Like, I just want to see these characters mingling together, even if it's just a few of them for this movie or that series or whatever. I just want to start seeing them together as opposed to separate. Now that a lot of them have had their origin story. I mean, that's kind of what a lot of Phase 4 was introducing all these characters. Now let's mash a few together so that whenever you mash even more of them together, you have some relationships, you have some connections, you have some banter, and it all makes sense and it all feels satisfying. That to me was what that scene did for Miss Marvel and Kate Bishop, and hopefully they bring Stature into it, and they could leave Sakaar back on Sakaar or wherever he came from. I don't even remember, but
this is actually what we have been complaining about. What was lacking about what we got so far, that there was not enough connectivity, and now we are slowly getting there.
Right.
I mean, there was also a reference to Quantumania in Loki, the Loki finale. So it's coming, and does that automatically mean the MCU is getting back on track?
I mean, to me, it just feels more. I'm more excited. Put it that way. Like whenever I saw that scene, one, I thought it was a hilarious take on that Nick Fury scene from 15 years ago. Kamala Khan is no Nick Fury. She's better. And I said it. All right. I thought it was hilarious the way she bumbled through it and then like tried to sound intimidating and cool. And she's like, you think you're the only kid with superpowers? And Kate Bishop's like, I'm 24. You know what I mean? I'm not a kid. I just thought it was all great. So I'm more excited to see whatever comes after that, whether it's going to be called The Marvels 2 or whatever. I don't really care what it's called. If they take stories, I just want to see these characters come together. So I got really excited from that. In kind of, I don't know if that prepared me for the end credit scene, but like I kind of took the same thing from that. Like I don't see this scene with Monica being in this alternate universe as she's going to go there and pull the X-Men to us. I think it's going to be almost maybe a launching point for how these worlds collide somehow in the future, or how the Secret Wars start, or whatever. Because now she's there, she wants to probably get back to her timeline, and I could see those heroes over there helping her. Maybe something goes awry. I just think it just adds a potential reasoning behind whatever is going to culminate with this whole multiverse saga. So I didn't really take it as much as like, oh, now we're going to just see the X-Men from 20 years ago get brought over some forceful way. I thought it's like, okay, well, if there's enough of a reason and a logic behind this actually happening, then this is part of that. You know what I mean? This is a potential jumping point for the inevitable Secret Wars or whatever. I mean, that's just how I took that. So it was really cool. And Beast got a huge pop in the audience that I was with. Whenever he turned around, all the kids went crazy. So
it's not like you're afraid that they will do the multiverse trick, which me and like Arch has been dreading, that they just open a portal, pull the X-Men in, and then we got X-Men, we have mutants. You're not afraid of that happening?
I don't think it's going to be that clear. I think there may be like merging at some point of, like I don't know how they're going to explain it, but I saw it more as like, when you open this multiverse door, all this stuff is going to happen, and they almost a reasoning behind how the X-Men, because they're going to do an X-Men, and they're going to in theory want it to be in the same universe, or maybe they won't, but maybe this like somehow prepares an audience for that. I don't know. I'm not in the, I don't want to speculate too much and mislead my own thought process. But I just think like they're gonna get to it eventually, and they're doing these little hints at it. And I saw this one as more of a launching point to it rather than like what they did with Multiverse of Madness, which felt like guest characters. It felt like this might be the only time we see these characters. This one felt like, okay, now we have a character from the MCU that's stuck in another timeline somewhere, and it also includes mutants. So, cool. You know what I mean? Like that's where I took that one. Was this one feels less like a guest star and more like a launching off point.
Okay.
But again, that might have been primed by the end scene with the future Avengers, essentially.
Okay. Fair enough. Before we go to our rating section, I have two follow-ups. First, Loki's mom.
Okay, here's how it's going to happen. The Beast. Now, is he Kelsey Grammer, whom I love dearly, just one of my favorite, and he's back on the air, by the way. Anyway, is he like a villain? A villainish character? Can he be?
The Beast has been a villain in the comic books very recently. I would say that that's a modern interpretation of the character, but I don't know that that's what they're going for in the MCU.
Who's
Yeah, I didn't get the sense that he was villainous in this scene, but there is a version of Beast called Dark Beast that's been around for like the last 30 years or so that is from a time where evil reigned supreme. So
there you go.
Okay then, so we've got the Beast here. So in another dimension, and how many of these potential young Avengers, are going to have abilities to break into this other dimension? I mean, we've got Ant-Man's kid, with her psionic, whatever PIM particles. Then we've got the kid from Doctor Strange. What's her name? With the stars.
America Chavez.
Yes, America Chavez. She can go multidimensional. We've got I'm not sure what I don't think Miss Marvel can young Miss Marvel can do, so she'll just be there for backup. But anyway, we've got so many of these characters. Hey, we forgot Thor's kid. That he adopted that. She's like a multi-dimension. Why we don't even know what she is. So hey, they can go over into the X-Men world, and they're not going to be bothering over here in the Avengers world. You see what I'm talking about? I think if they could do it like that, they got a winner.
Oh well,
Can you get that message? Can you get that information, Lord Deathman, to whoever needs to know that?
I'll do
we
my
just
best.
have to wait and see. Yeah? Lord Deathman, you also had a follow-up.
Yeah, just really quickly, I just wanted to say that recently in these movies, it feels like these end credits have sort of been proving grounds for ideas that, instead of really lending new information about what's going to happen in the saga next, they're kind of being put there to see how fans will react to them, like what kind of discussion they generate. And then if they're like huge winners, then we'll proceed in that direction. But if you get something that's more like a Star Fox and Pip the Troll, we may never see those characters again. So I just wanted to add that and throw that out there. And also the idea that maybe the X-Men get not introduced into the MCU universe, but sort of are fully baked in another universe, so we could just get around the story issues of bringing them into the MCU. That I think would be an equitable trade. It would sort of be two universes that are sort of just loosely linked together.
Yeah, that could work. We'll just have to wait and see. I think it's time to rate the Marvels. and it's simple, out of 10, and we're gonna do a quick round with the numbers. And I'm glad he's back on camera. Taylor, let's start with you. What is your rating for The Marvels?
Yeah, sorry, I had an issue there for a couple minutes.
Mhm.
I really like this movie. I like the three main characters, and I really like Nick Fury in this. Like we said, back to form. Nick Fury did a great job in this. Like I said, I put it right in the middle of the MCU. I'm giving it 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Yeah, for Taylor, that's the middle, people. I think he rated Secret Invasion an 8, so that tells a lot.
7.
That's 7. Oh, whoa. Yeah, it was really terrible. 7. Merv.
I'm gonna go 8.5 out of 10. I really had a good time watching this one.
Okay. Loki's mom.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, fair enough. Lord Death Man.
I am going to give it a 7.5. Great data at the movies. Definitely, without a doubt, great film. But just a couple of things holding it back from being top tier or maybe even mid tier MCU. But good movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself during the movie. I thought it wasn't the best thing since sliced bread, but still, I enjoyed myself. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Fairly great, a good time. It felt like my new Age of Ultron. I mean, Age of Ultron isn't very good, but I enjoy the heck out of it, and I think this is about the same. So yeah, that's my rating. Um, that will conclude our review for the Marvels. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, you can help us out, like and share this review, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really want more of us, join our forum at SucartaFreeforums.net. We would love it if you do that. Be on the lookout for our next movie review, which probably be Aquaman 2. Maybe we will do a review series for What If Season 2. And Echo is also on its way. And at some point, we will be dropping a new podcast as well. So a lot to come. And you may want to stick around for the after credit scene of this review. It's worth it, trust me. And for now, I thank you all, also on behalf of our champions. And I wish you to be safe and be well. Bye. Star Trek, the original franchise. These are the voyages of the podcast of champions in our 5-year mission to explore this vast universe. Join us on our trek among deep space stations and wormholes. See us discover the Alpha, Beta, Gamma and Delta quadrant of this enterprise that was given to us by Gene Roddenberry. We will seek out strange new worlds, both in animation as well as in live action for both the TV and the movie screen. This is the Star Trek Project.